So I know Russell Wilson has been talking about Williams, and he's excited to have him on the other side of Pickens, that he's got a guy – he can really do whatever he wants now. He's got every piece in the world. Now, barring injury, they have it all, like, lined up and figured out. Let's face facts. They got two great tight ends. They got two really good receivers. One of them might even possibly be great. Pickens is a dangerous customer. He's got massive talent. A lot of people think Williams does as well, but we've seen him have failures in New York. We've seen him have some level of success in Los Angeles. What are we to believe?
And I actually think a guy that doesn't get talked about a lot. I think that in terms of a slot guy with some burst, I think Austin's pretty good. He doesn't get a ton of catches during the game, but when he does, he can always take it to the house. So you got to watch Austin out there with that Steeler offense too. So Russ very happy to have Mike Williams. Here's what we have now: 2.5 still for Washington. 44.5 is the total. Of course, Jaden Daniels will be a tough customer for the Steelers this week. I did not know, Scotty, that his mom was his agent and that she has now been certified by the NFLPA, officially an agent in the league. She represents her son. So I guess congrats to her and him.
Well, obviously, that's pretty impressive on her behalf to pull that off. And then I'd say she just needs to learn all the little tricks that they all know about every single thing about contracts. I think she already knows his value. You know, he's the number 2 player selected in the draft, and he's a star already in the making in the NFL. So his price tag is going to soar through the sky into the heavens in short order. And imagine what this guy's going to be making in 4 years. Honestly.
Yeah.
He might make 75, 80 million a year.
By the way, I like the under in the Steeler-Washington game, 44.5 on Sunday. I think the Steelers win, but I think it's a bit of a tough blue-collar type of game. I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring game between those two. Could look a little bit like that Bear game with Washington a few weeks ago. A little bit lower scoring, but the Steelers, I think, are going to find a way in Landover to get the job done.
With the other team winning.
Yes. I'm saying that the type of game, low scoring, a little grinded out, but I think Steelers win. Somewhere in the 17-10, 17-13 type of range, right about there. And then they'll have the real test on deck, the Ravens and the Steelers. That'll be fun all next week. All right, the humanity. The 49ers off a bye are 4-4. They are going to get Christian McCaffrey back. Of course, we heard Shanahan playing games with that all week. He did say yesterday he expects him to play. He also talked about the quarterback on the other side. Very impressed with what Baker Mayfield's been doing with the Bucs.
What do you see from Baker? How has he grown in Tampa?
I think Baker's a stud. I think last year, I thought he was at the top of his game last year, playing real well, and this year I think he's the same, if not better. I think he's one of the main reasons. I think they were a couple plays away from playing us in the NFC Championship last year. We were real worried about him going into that game. He just got hotter as the whole year went, and he's playing at such a high level right now.
Without a doubt. And let's stop with all this nonsense. This guy won a Heisman Trophy, and he is a really good quarterback. He goes for it. He's a stud. There's no doubt about it. He's a badass. And I think he got labeled in Cleveland, and people seem to forget that what was wrapped around him was stale bread. I mean, they just didn't have the team around him. He was like trying to do it himself, and he dealt with all kinds of injuries. He got obliterated in the pocket. They had no line. And then when he went to the Rams, he had success. When he went to Tampa, he had even more success. You put talent around him like Evans and Godwin, he lit it up. I think now he's showing how good he is because he's playing with all these backups, and he's still getting it done. This guy is a gamer. Let's stop with all this other rhetoric.
No doubt. 6.5 for the Niners on the road. This has gone up throughout the week with the McCaffrey news. And 50.5, a big total. Of course, the Bucs have played a lot of overs so far this year.
Well, like when this game was on the board at the beginning, it was 6, so it's only moved a little bit. I still think it's the Niners because of the Tampa problems with injuries. And I think that McCaffrey being back changes everything. Even if he gets in a limited number of, snaps, I could still see him scoring a touchdown or two. If they're inside the 5 or something and inside the red zone, he's going to be effective when he has the ball like he always is. I don't think he's going to carry the heavy burden, but he doesn't have to. Just having him out there makes the Niners a better team, and they need to win this game. I think Tampa's lost 5 of 6. They're in trouble because I think the Evans and Godwin injuries really killed them, and all the blown opportunities. The game where Bulls didn't go for 2 in Kansas City, it's just one loss after the next, and I think it's caught up with Tampa.
Absolutely catching up with them here. I like the Niners in that game coming up this week. The Vikings heading to Florida as well, though they're going to Jacksonville to see the Jaguars. Now, Doug Peterson said today it's trending towards Trevor Lawrence not playing, which means Mac Jones would get the start if that were to happen. Here is Doug Peterson being asked about why Sam Darnold has turned his career around in Minnesota. A pretty simple answer from Coach.
Sam Darnold's seeming to click finally this season.
Oh, yeah.
First time in his career, first round pick. Why? Why is this the time for him?
Justin Jefferson? Because you were thinking it.
Yeah.
I mean,
the reality is this, is that the Jags stink. And he does have Jefferson, who's put up insane numbers. Like the best numbers in NFL history is what he's putting up for yards per game. And he's topped Hall of Famers, legends. He's having that kind of a season. The Vikings should be able to go down there and kick their ass. Let's get real here.
This was in the 4 to 5 range early in the week before the Lawrence news. I saw it get to 7 last night. I've seen it now dip back to 6.5 this afternoon. So there's been a lot of movement with this line. Mac Jones is playing, Scotty. That's enough for me. I'll take the Vikings.
It was 4.5 when I did it, right? And now it's 6.5. So I got the Vikings early. I think the Vikings get it done. And remember, they were so hot. Everyone was on the Vikings to win the Super Bowl. They're undefeated, best team in the league, and boom, couple losses. This is where they get right.
I think this is where they get right as well. All right, the Jets are heading out to Arizona to the Toaster to see the Cardinals this week. Cardinals are 5-4. Many people maybe didn't expect that. Kyler Murray is not one of those people.
I don't think anybody in the locker room is really surprised by it. That's where I think it differs from everybody outside of here. I could have told you all, I felt like our record would be better than this right now. I can say that, but I think just the way we approach every single day and the way we attack every single day, just taking it one day at a time, focusing on the process and playing one game at a time, not really focus on the future, and that's how you get the results. I don't see this group looking too far ahead.
Listen, I think the way they run the ball and pound it, it's a lot like Baltimore. I think that they're very effective winning games that way. And I think Murray's a lot like Jackson in the sense that when he gets going out of that pocket and starts breaking ankles and making moves and busting moves and spinoramas and silhouettes and all this other, he's got the whole bag of tricks when he's being chased and an arm that goes with it. Like the other guy, Jackson, takes off running, and most of the time it's a run. This guy will run around in circles like Fran Tarkenton, and then he'll lace a 30-yard rope. And I like him a lot. Not only that, I think they beat the Jets.
I think they beat the Jets as well. This has not changed from yesterday. I told you the Jets were 1.5-point road favorites. Total's 46.5. I like under in Arizona in this game.
Sweet.
What can you say about Hunter? Besides the fact that he's got to be healthy. Remember, he had the shoulder injury that kind of limited him at, once he got to the end of the season. 17.9, 10.9 last year, and he should be, as usual, a double-double machine. He's got to be able to continue to show the ability to try and shoot the ball from three.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
For the first time together, both Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the two big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
We know the Jets have weaknesses. I mean, they didn't get to their record where they are now by being good, right? They got there because they stunk it up.
Ferrall Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Hey, look who it is. Our boy Blue from In Game Live. Oh, my God. Where do you see this guy's outfit? Oh, look at that. Oh, my God. Jesus. Love of Christ. Oh, my God. Look at Carver High's even jealous. Carver High's got his Bills blazers. He's got the Fighting Irish blazer. He's got the Halloween blazer. He's got the Islanders blazers. He wears them out and about in Vegas. But look at you. You're like pimping the Steelers blazer. Oh, my God. It's the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. Who needs anything else? A job, a family, good weather, food, booze. When you have a jacket like that, you have it all.
Agreed. I was on air earlier today, didn't wear it because I had to save it for this unique appearance where someone would truly appreciate the brilliance of this high-quality jacket. And I'm happy to be here with you on what is probably the biggest test for the Steelers and Commanders this season.
Listen, I've already said on the show today that, well, Carver High and I both think they get it done. But I've already, said that it is what it is. All I care about is next week because I'm going to the game against the Ravens, and Pittsburgh's going to be unbelievable on the 17th. They're going to serve the Ravens up some cold Pittsburgh Steeler football right down their throat.
Love it. So I think what they need to clean up, though, Scott, before then is red zone, because Boswell, as much as we like him, getting a little bit too much work. And I think Russell needs to show that he can push the ball downfield even better than he's been doing. It's not his strength, but I think maybe the addition of Mike Williams helps. I just think they need to be better pushing the ball down the field, and I think that is a weakness for the Commanders. So strong possibility that George Pickens really goes off this weekend against a weaker secondary. I appreciate that they added Marshawn Lattimore, but that was 3 days ago. It's hard to expect him to make a huge impact right away.
Well, I mean, he's not even playing. Like yesterday, right. Kaplan said he's got a hammy and that he's not going to go. We'll see if that's true. If he doesn't go, they're screwed. Now, look, I think McLaurin's a great receiver. I think Jaden Daniels great. But I don't think Jaden Daniel has seen this type of pass rush that he's going to see on Sunday at the dump in Landover. Now, listen, you tell me. This team now has like a quarterback that's spreading it to 6 to 8 receivers. They got 2 great tight ends. They got 2 great receivers. One of them spectacular in Pickens. I think Williams has the potential with his size to climb the ladder and get balls that otherwise wouldn't be caught. And Russell Wilson knows how to throw that high ball, believe me, you. And They have Najee busting off 100-yard games. I don't see the weakness anymore in the Steelers. I like their secondary. I love their pass rush. I like their linebackers. I like everything about them. Maybe a little bit in the trenches up front. Yeah. But how can you say they're not doing well there when the guy's having 100-yard games every time he touches the ball?
True. I think a lot of teams need more offensive line depth. The Steelers are one of those teams. But I think the one thing that always, like I said, the red zone stuff is not clean right now. Too many field goals. I'm always a little surprised that Freiermuth isn't a bigger part of the game plan. I think he's an excellent possession receiver. He is a very good blocker, so he's a victim of his own success in the same way that George Kittle is to some extent. Kittle is a standout tight end, but he doesn't put up Kelsey numbers consistently because of how good he is on the line, and I think that's part of what happens with Freiermuth as well.
So when you see the Ravens and the Bengals, because the Bengals to me at 4-6, they're not in this conversation, but the Bills are, Kansas City is, obviously, and Baltimore is, and Pittsburgh has to be in that conversation. I still think the Steelers can win the North.
I do too. I think that because of both Washington and Pittsburgh, because they've had relatively easy schedules, people aren't going to give them a lot of flowers yet. Same with the Bears to some extent, right? The Bears have a bunch of wins, but they haven't beaten anybody. When the Bears start beating good teams, then they'll start to maybe stop trying to get Matt Eberflus fired or think that Caleb is better than they perceive him to be. They just haven't really beaten anybody good yet. I'm with you. I think they're in the conversation. They have to prove it through big wins, and they're going to have, for better or for worse, they're going to have 9 straight opportunities to beat good teams, save the Browns games. The Bengals, we know they have a lot of warts, but that's a tough offense to deal with. We saw it last night. I thought they were not the beneficiary. They were on the wrong side of a couple of calls, but to be frank, you can't just start giving up touchdowns 4 in a row in the second half and start blaming the refs. They have real defensive issues to the Bengals.
I think the Steelers will have problems with the Bengals, and I think they'll have a stiff test with the Ravens games. There's no doubt. And the Kansas City game on Christmas is craziness. Now, I tried to, I've been sniffing around, Blue, about going to the Steeler game on Christmas Day, and I have been served papers, pre-divorce papers. I said, listen, what would happen if I went to Pittsburgh on the 25th of, December? So the 25th of December. She goes, that's Christmas. And I went,
that's the way to play it. That's the way to play it. You just do an ambiguous date. You just tell them a date. You don't mention the holiday. Like the day after, like the day before December 26th. What do we have going on there? Anything? You think I could squeeze in a Steelers game? That's the way to do it.
Have you ever thought about having Christmas Eve be Christmas? Like, let's this year do it under the lights and in the fireplace in the dark. We'll just do it everything the night before, and then I'll leave on an early morning flight to Pittsburgh and go to the Steeler game.
Right. I think if I asked to do that, I would spend Christmas like Dan Aykroyd did in Trading Places, an old sweaty Santa suit, trying to chew on a big hunk of salmon by myself with a bottle of booze in the pouring rain. I think that would be my Christmas if I asked.
Do you think they can beat them on Christmas Day in Pittsburgh?
Because it's in Pittsburgh, I give them a chance. The one thing I'll say, that I've said on this network many times, the presence of Patrick Mahomes consistently distracts people from how legit their defense is.
Screw him. They're going down this year. The Steelers are going to the Super Bowl. Steelers and Lions. That's what's up, Blue. I haven't seen you in a minute, and that's what's up. And that blazer is fantastic. You're the king of the world, Blue.
What can you say about Hunter? Besides the fact that he's got to be healthy. Remember, he had the shoulder injury that kind of limited him at, once he got to the end of the season. 17.9, 10.9 last year, and he should be, as usual, a double-double machine. He's got to be able to continue to show the ability to try and shoot the ball from three.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
For the first time together, both Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the two big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
We know the Jets have weaknesses. I mean, they didn't get to their record where they are now by being good, right? They got there because they stunk it up.
Ferrall Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
That guy was, stepping into your neighborhood, like into your hood, into your world, into your, the extravagant blazer, repertoire that you own, the magnificent clothes that you bust out for certain games. I mean, Blue going into dangerous territory there, showing up and showing off and trying to pull off a Carver high. I've seen it all. But now it's time for another edition of Rush, Rush, Baby, when we talk about the Cowboys' new quarterback.
Rush, Rush, Baby, indeed. And that was a good jacket by Mike, of course. Listen, you got to have jackets like that in your collection. They're outstanding, and you need them from once in a while. Rush, Rush, Baby is back. That's right. Cooper Rush will be filling in for Dak Prescott this week and for the next few weeks while he is on IR. Here he is. Of course, he's 5-1 as the Cowboys starter the past couple of years when Dak is out. He's ready to go.
Yeah, I'm older, I've seen more, I've done more and gotten better as a player, I think, over the years, so it's exciting.
Do you enter this game with the thoughts on the differences between 2022 and this one versus, as far as 2022, you were looking to help keep the team and the season on the rails. With this one, you're trying to help get it back on the rails.
Yeah, we're just trying to beat Philly. It's kind of our approach this week. You got to take them one at a time. It's a cliche, but it works. And so that's kind of the goal, and you just really take it practice by practice, game by game, and we'll see what happens.
Well, you have to tell me what the number is now because that's all that's left. Will Philly finish them? Is it 7?
It's a flat 7 here on a late Friday afternoon. Flat 7 and 43.5.
I just think they've looked so terrible on both sides of the ball. So I don't think he's going to be bad. I just don't think the Cowboys can stop the Eagles.
Man, they've been smashed at home like every game this year. They have been embarrassed at home. Are they ever going to show up for a home game?
No.
I like the over 43.5 in the game. I think we'll actually see some points. And I lean to the Eagles covering that 7 with you on that. All right, let's go through a bunch of these other games before we get to some college in the next hour. Sunday night game, good one this week. Lions are in Houston against the Texans. Lions minus 3.5, 48.5 is going to be the total for this one. Entertaining Sunday night game.
Well, the problem with the Texans lately is they're not scoring, and they're not Stroud isn't throwing touchdowns, and they've had problems at receiver when they lost Diggs, and and Nico went down, and now they think, possibly Nico will be back. If Nico's back, it, I think, changes everything in this game. I think that Stroud will finally have his guy, and let's face facts, he is his guy. I think he is and has been more important this year than even Diggs. Diggs is done for the year, so he's got no more chances there. But I think it could change the entire complexity of this game. But they're not as good as the Lions. So I know everyone wants to serve them up as the hot commodity in the NFL. They started with it last year, that the Texans were the new darlings of the NFL. Well, they're not scoring, and they're not better than the Lions. And all they got going for them is these hot new uniforms they're going to wear Sunday night, and the fact that they're playing at NRG. I think that gives them an edge, an attitude. It gives them, if they got Nico back, a little bit of a taste of moxie. But overall, they got to deal with a team that not only wins every week, but they cover every week, and they light people up every week. The Lions are, frankly, unstoppable. So have fun with that. I still like the Lions.
I like the Lions as well, and I really like that under 48.5. I think it's going to be a little bit of a smash mouth game, and I think the Lions are going to take care of business in it. Of course, Sunday morning, we have the Germany game, the Giants and the Panthers in Munich. Giants, of course, favored in this one. God bless you if you want to lay 6.5 with them, or trust yourself to lay 6.5 with the Giants. 40.5 is the total. Carolina did give some money to their running back, Chuba Hubbard, 4 years, $33 million extension.
Listen, this is the worst game I've seen on paper,
ever,
like before it starts, than any game I can ever remember being in Europe. I really mean it. This game is awful. Now, here's what's going to happen. I'm gonna go play basketball, and I'm not going to watch at all. And then when I see the final score, we'll see if they covered or not. The Giants. Everyone thinks the Giants are covering this big number against Carolina. I don't trust the Giants to win the game, let alone cover.
What can you say about Hunter? Besides the fact that he's got to be healthy. Remember, he had the shoulder injury that kind of limited him at, once it got to the end of the season. 17.9, 10.9 last year, and he should be, as usual, a double-double machine. He's got to be able to continue to show the ability to try and shoot the ball from three.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
A lot of concern, I would say, for Georgia in Carson Beck. 3 interceptions. Once again, his third 3-interception game in the last 5 for UGA.
You can argue if they had Alex Orji as their starting quarterback for Georgia, they would be perfect and unbeaten right now just by not turning the football over and running it with your talented backfield.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Ferrall has taken over. Let's go. It's Ferrall.
Coast to coast. Steaks, chicks, stacks. You and I are going to make a lot of money.
It's Ferrall. Coast to coast.
All right, don't forget to get the SportsGrid app on iOS and Android. It's phenomenal. You can watch the network on the app. You can listen to the network on the app. You can get stories, videos, highlights, in-game odds. It's all there. Follow your favorite hosts. The SportsGrid app on iOS and Android. Also, you can watch us now streaming every day, all day on X. Just search SportsGrid/live, and you're golden. All right, as we continue on here, we're still talking Pain Day NFL just the way we oughta.
Yes, we are. We just have a couple of other games to get to, and then we'll start to dive into the huge college slate this week. The Chargers are home for Tennessee. A few notes here. Number one, Chargers have allowed the least amount of points in the NFL through Week 9, followed by the Steelers, Chiefs, Bears, and Lions. So the Charger defense has been very good so far this year, and they get a chance to be even better because Will Levis is going to be back in the saddle for the Titans this week out at SoFi. So there you go. Levis now healthy enough to play.
That'll be.
Yeah, it makes no sense. Not that they were winning with Rudolph, but at least they were moving the ball a little bit.
They're awful.
I guess you could.
Either one of
they're
them.
awful. That doesn't matter. 7.5 for the Chargers. 38.5 the low total.
Hate that hook. I really do. But, that to me is that just looks so easy and inviting that the Chargers are going to cover that game. I bet they won't. I bet Tennessee's the buy there at 7.5, and that Levis will throw some garbage time backdoor cover pick or, TD to cover that bet, and everyone will lose their money. That looks so easy, that bet, that it won't be. Something, but there's not going to just be all these easy wins in the NFL. Okay, like every game's just so easy. This one smells of it to me.
And everyone's on the Chargers. I mean everyone. I'm going to give you that. I'm going to give you those numbers in a minute. It's like 89% on LA in that game. The Falcons are in New Orleans against the Saints. Of course, the Saints chopped Dennis Allen this week. It'll be Darren Rizzi, the interim head coach, who we heard from earlier this week. He's got a lot of energy. And how about this? And this makes it really came all together. Joey Prawns knows this guy, Rizzi. So, of course, this guy was like one of Joey Prawns' old buddies. So, -3.5 for the Falcons. 46.5 is the total in this game.
Look, I think the Falcons are going to kick their ass. It's that simple. They'll get it done. They're better. They're, their running game, their passing, their quarterback. The Saints are, they lost to the Panthers. I mean, honestly, I don't care if Derek Carr's the quarterback. They're an awful football team. I'll never forget when they were 2-0. We had guests on and everybody had them going to the Super Bowl. They're going to be buying tickets just like everybody else.
They certainly are. And finally, for Sunday Pain Day, the Patriots are in Chicago against the Bears. Bears -6.5, 38.5 the total.
I think the Bears get clean here. They've looked so awful. People want the coach fired. Guess what? You look up and you're playing May and the Pats. Dinner is served. I think this one's going to be an eye-opener for Bears fans. They'll all be happy at Soldier Field. They'll get drunk and watch the Bears roll. Caleb Williams hasn't had a good game in a while. He's going to have one here.
There you go. The full slate for Sunday, Pain Day in the NFL. But first, two other things.
Pain Day.
Most popular bets for Week 10. Who's the public going to the window with here? The Vikings, 90% of the bets for them against Jacksonville. 89% on the Lions. Rams, Niners, Bills, Broncos. They have 66 for the Chargers at MGM. I was looking on FanDuel, and they have it in the high 80s. So every book's obviously a little different from time to time. But there you go, the most popular bets for all the games this week.
No one cares about that. We want Carver High Tutties.
We do have those as well. A 5-pack for you on Sunday to get things involved. All I needed was those stats about what Washington, how much they blitz, how much Pickens gets involved when the blitz is coming the Steelers' way. That was enough for me. Plus 155 for Pickens to catch a long one from Russell Wilson this week against the Commanders at the dump. Next, I saw enough on Monday night to know that Mahomes is going to be looking for DeAndre Hopkins all the time now. Yeah, and they're going to be playing the Broncos. They'll probably score a bunch of points, plus 180 for D-Hop to continue to go. Hawkinson was back for the Vikings last week. He got a little bit of burn, almost caught a tutty. Numbers too fat for me. Plus 280 for Hawkinson to get back involved against the Jaguars in Jacksonville. Allen's number was too heavy for me this week, too. Plus 160 for him. He scored a touchdown last week, and the pig refs took it away. He'll get one this week. And my big bomb is this Xavier Legette for the Panthers at plus 360. I can't believe I'm putting a Panther on the touchdown skinny this week, Scotty. But here's the reason why. They got no receivers left. They sent away Deontay Johnson. They sent away the Mingo 8-year baby. They're going to Germany, and they're playing the Giants, who give up some big plays in the passing game. Legette is all that really Bryce Young has left to go to. I don't care how long it is. Plus 360. We'll give it some mileage.
I love all those. I like McLaren. I like Freiermuth. I like Najee. And those are some of the ones that I feel like are going to happen as well in that big game in the dump in Landover.
I can't wait. We love tutties. And not bad last night either. We had Chase Brown, and we said, also, as always, with Andrews, who we had for first touchdown, always play him for an anytime. So 2 out of 4 last night. Man, if you had Chase for 2 or 3 plus touchdowns, you were rolling in that game on Thursday Night Football. So nice job by you. All right, we got a lot of college to do. I'll save Rich for after Gabe, obviously, Scotty, because we'll never get Rich done with the small amount of time we have left. I'll tell you that Coastal beat App State last night. And why did Coastal win? Because the coach was shotgunning the beers with the ESPN crew earlier in the day. So nice job by Coastal getting it done against App State.
I'm going to call him
ECU.
Stone Cold now on. My man smashed the can off of his forehead after he crushed a beer.
ECU, East Carolina beat FAU 49-14. FAU sucks. Here's tonight's
5 touchdown passes in that game.
Yeah, kid played well for them. Tonight, we've got 4 games in college football for you. We'll do those now. Cal takes the long trip to the East Coast. They go to Winston-Salem, where they'll see Wake Forest tonight, and they're 7.5-point road favorites. Iowa heads to the Rose Bowl to see UCLA, minus 6.5 for the Hawkeyes. We've got Rice and Memphis in the American, Memphis minus 7.5. And late night Mountain West game, we have San Diego State, the Aztecs, minus 2.5 against the Lobos out at Snapdragon.
Yeah, look, I think Cal wins in Winston-Salem. I think Iowa's better than UCLA, but I'm going to go rogue here and take the Bruins and the points at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. I think Memphis will destroy Rice. And I think at Snapdragon, the Aztecs will beat the Lobos. I think San Diego State will get back on the horse.
I think San Diego State will get it done as well. I like the under in that Iowa-UCLA game. Maybe we could both go to the window here. UCLA and the under for me. And Wake Forest stinks. So I'm going to take Cal in that first one. All right, we'll do all the other games after you talk to Gabe. We'll do Rich, and then we've got all the heavies. Miami, Indiana, Georgia, Ole Miss, LSU, Alabama, all the racks. There's tons of college football that we have to do.
This is fantastic. I mean, there's so many great games. I'm losing weight over here.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
Are you okay with him moving to the head of the class of the Heisman with those 2 games? Because he wasn't even in the discussion before those two games.
This is a big opportunity for Dylan if he wants to continue to make his case for the Heisman Trophy, and I think he's shown that. I mean, what is he, a sixth-tier player who's going to probably end up setting most of the passing marks because he's been around for so long? So why not also throw a Heisman Trophy in the mix?
Ferrall Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
What can you say about Hunter? Besides the fact that he's got to be healthy. Remember, he had the shoulder injury that kind of limited him at, once he got into the end of the season. 17.9, 10.9 last year, and he should be, as usual, a double-double machine. He's got to be able to continue to show the ability to try and shoot the ball from three.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
You can catch Morency's Sports Rage weeknights at 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific. We get the luxury of having him on Coast to Coast every day from Vancouver with a double shot. And today, I want to focus on, in each segment, the NFL in this first one, and in the second shot, some of the college games for tomorrow and even tonight. So I want to start with your Bills at Lucas Oil against Joe Flacco. I've already said, and Carver High as well, I'm not afraid of the Colts if I'm the Bills. Go handle your business. You're better. Beat them.
No, I agree with you. And I think also if you're the Buffalo Bills, you would prefer that it was Joe Flacco at quarterback than Anthony Richardson. The Buffalo Bills' weakness, you can run at them, right? And mobile quarterbacks, bigger running backs. Richardson, look what Derrick Henry did to them. Richardson could just sort of drop back and run the ball down their throat. Flacco was just a stationary target back there. Now, we should note, it doesn't look like Amari Cooper's going to play. We know that Keon Coleman is out. So the Bills are somewhat shorthanded a little bit at the wide receiver position, but Shakir is kind of the key guy, right? That's sort of, Josh looks to Shakir, the quick hits to Shakir. Cooper wasn't there before, and Coleman is just sort of still learning right now. So it's not the end of the world. It's not ideal, though, Scott, but they didn't cover the spread last week. This number was a little high. We'll give credit to Miami's offense. But I do agree with you. I think the Buffalo Bills roll into Indianapolis and walk out with like a 7 to 10 point victory.
The Niners are at Raymond James and allegedly getting McCaffrey back, and the Bucs have had all kinds of problems, injuries, receivers, and they've been losing. They've dropped 5 of 6. They're in trouble.
The Niners are a bad bet. They just are, right? They're one of these teams that we're told that are great all the time, but they'll cost you money if you bet on them. Yet, this is a good spot for them. They're coming off the bye week. They get McCaffrey back, and you get a Tampa Bay Buccaneer football team playing on a short week in a football game that they laid their hearts out. Yet, I'm not in love with it, Scott. This isn't a spot. I'm not betting. I'm not going to say I'm not going to bet it because I'm a degenerate, and at the last minute before kickoff, I always add a bunch of games that I don't really like. Everybody does it. You know what I mean? We have our best bets. And it's one of those, you're clicking around, you're like, oh, I got this game on TV. All right, yeah, I get it. All right, I guess I'll get in on this. Earlier in the week, Scott, I was thinking, number one, I'm still not waking up for it. All right, it's at 6:30 in the morning on the West Coast. The Giants and the Panthers in Germany. But you know what? I actually do think there's going to be some points in this game. We had a guest on the other night. We were talking about this game, and they're so bad. Both these football teams, they have nothing to lose. You know, if the Giants can't score in the Panthers, Scott, like Dable should just. I don't know what the Giants can do. I mean, they're a terrible team. They're actually better on the road, so I think their offense will actually click here against the Panthers. I think the Panthers will score a little bit on them. As much of a train wreck of a game that is.
So Steelers and Commanders at the dump in Landover. It's Washington -2.5.
I'm going with the Commanders here, Scott. I like what your Steelers have done. I think they're the real deal, but nobody wins every week. There's sort of situational spots. I think it's a good spot for the Commanders. One of the big strengths, obviously, the Steelers is T.J. Watt. And we know how good he is. He just terrorizes quarterbacks. But I think Jaden Daniels and the Commanders' offense is sort of built to deal with a defense like the Steelers. They get rid of the ball so quickly, as you know. Boom. It's like they snap it, boom, it's gone. He's very elusive in the pocket as well. This is a super cool football game. But I'm going with the Washington Commanders in this game, Scott. In fact, I played them in the Super Contest.
The Jets are in Arizona, and the number is 1.5. They're favored on the road against this tough Zona team.
I love how we hear people talk about the Jets are on a roll right now. They won one game.
Right.
They won. And speaking of situational spots, it was a horrible spot for the Houston Texans, and they were really, really beat up. This Arizona football team is fun, Scott. I'm a fan of them. We've talked about Gannon in the past. He's got the defense flying around. There's always the talk about the offense of Kyler Murray there, and whether it's good or whether it's bad, etc. But their defense has really been balling over the last 2-3 weeks. They hadn't won back-to-back games in 3 years, all right? And then they went into Miami, and they won their consecutive game. They strung back-to-back games. Then they go back home, and I'll be honest with you. I liked the Bears last week. And they kicked the crap out of the Bears in Arizona. Now you get the Jets rolling in. I know the Jets feel a little bit better about themselves, but I think Arizona's defense can do enough. I don't think the Jets' offense is going to, go off here. They haven't had an explosive game. I know they beat Houston, but it wasn't like they went up and down the field on them. So I don't think it starts here either. I think Arizona's defense will do enough to slow down Rodgers and Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson. Keep them, at 17 type of deal, maybe 20. But I think Arizona can do enough on offense. I mean, listen, this is risky, Scott. We're asking the Arizona Cardinals to win 4 consecutive football games. But I don't want to get in front of them. The Jets are overpriced every week. The Jets get, point spreaded like they're a 6-2 team or whatever, or a 6-3 team. Right. When in reality, they're 3-6.
How do you think Cooper Rush will do with the 7.5 he's getting against the Eagles at Jerry's World?
This was one of these games, Scott, where, you probably don't watch it. You put the money on the Cowboys, you take the points, and you don't watch the game after. Because, you call it the nose plug, the clothespin pick. There's a lot of different terms for it in the betting industry. But listen, the fact of the matter is Cooper Rush was 5-1 as a starter. He does provide some spark for whatever stupid reason. I don't know. And for me, it's more just the Eagles. Right, I don't trust the Eagles laying this type of points. Remember last week we talked, the Eagles are going to win, but they're not going to cover against the Jags. So to me, you don't really want to trust the Eagles in this spot. But the Eagles have been a good road team, right? We saw them go into Cincinnati and roll the Bengals. So I'm not in love with this game, but for me it would be Cowboys or pass, Scott.
You're doing the Sunday night game, Lions and Texans in Houston on SportsGrid. Who do you like?
I like the over of this game. And listen, man, Jared Goff could legitimately win the MVP this year. Houston are really beat up. They're missing linemen. Will Anderson hasn't practiced all week. It doesn't look like they're getting Nico Collins back. I don't like to overblow injuries, Scott, because pro teams are, it's next man up. But they really are a beat up team. It's got to be Detroit in the over.
We'll hit college next with Morency.
can you say about Hunter? Besides the fact that he's got to be healthy. Remember, he had the shoulder injury that kind of limited him at, once he got to the end of the season. 17.9, 10.9 last year, and he should be, as usual, a double-double machine. He's got to be able to continue to show the ability to try and shoot the ball from three.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
For the first time together, both Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the two big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
We know the Jets have weaknesses. I mean, they didn't get to their record where they are now by being good, right? They got there because they stunk it up.
Ferrall Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
All right, we're talking to Morency from Vancouver, Canada, and we thought we'd do the college football games, the big ones for tomorrow. And I know there's some games tonight, so why don't we just
Let me just quickly jump in, Scott.
Yeah.
Let me just quickly say, speaking of Vancouver, there's one MLS playoff game tonight, Game 3. They play 3-game series, which is kind of insane. But
right.
Because soccer's usually 2 games, aggregate, you add up the scores and you move on. But MLS, they do a 3-game series, and this series has gone 3 games. So tonight in Los Angeles, over at BMO, basically on the other side of the Crypt, very cool soccer stadium, LAFC, minus 150 favorites tonight against the Whitecaps. The Whitecaps are a scrappy and a dangerous side, the Vancouver Whitecaps, but they're a much better home team. They're not a very good road team. They got lit up in Game 1. Dude, they lost like 5-0 on the road in Game 1. Then they won 3-0 in Game 2. So the total is 2.5 tonight, guys. I really like the over of this game. And even though I am a Whitecap fan, I'd be really surprised if they beat LAFC tonight. So I actually think it's a fair price with LAFC. I want to throw that out there. That game's at 10:30 Eastern time tonight.
All right, so of Cal Wake, Rice Memphis, Iowa UCLA, New Mexico San Diego State, who do you like? Any of those?
Yeah, let's start off with Cal and Wake Forest. Listen, Cal started off the season. All these Cal games are close all the time, number one. But they started off the season. They were winning some football games. And then, they had the heartbreaking loss to your Miami Hurricanes. They had a really close loss to Florida State. And it just sort of is snowballed from there. And the fact of the matter is, this is we're talking about 2 teams here with identical records that are both really battling hard for a bowl position right now. We've seen, Scott, teams from the Big Ten and the Pac-12 that are in these new conferences, they don't do well when they travel across the country. It's like, especially in the Big Ten. The Big Ten teams are getting lit up. So Iowa's in that spot tonight, all right, as far as they're just getting killed. When they travel. They're not used to it. So here's another long road trip for Cal. Where I'm going with this is Wake Forest are a live dog tonight. I think Wake Forest can win this football game outright. I don't have to get that bold. I'm getting 7.5 points, but they are plus 225 on the money line. Wake Forest have won 3 of their last 4 football games. Meanwhile, Cal have lost. 3 or less. They're going in different directions right now. I don't understand the spread here. It's like I don't see any major injuries, Scott. I was even on like the Wake Forest, you know what I mean, beat writers page. I looked up like everything I could. I'm like, what am I missing about this? Give me Wake Forest plus the 7.5. And here's something too that people probably would have, the casual fan would have realized. But the Iowa Hawkeyes are the best over team in the country this year. They're 8-1 to the over, right? The Iowa Hawkeyes. This team scores points, right? You know, and their totals. The public doesn't really bet it. They don't believe that Iowa games are going to go over. So you always get these moderate numbers. Listen, UCLA's offense is pedestrian. But with that being stated, they can get into the mid-20s. They've been getting into the mid-20s against people. This is a fun game tonight, guys. Listen, Iowa game could get away from UCLA late. I can see this game being close, and then maybe there's a pick 6 or something, and Iowa pulls out a late cover. And you know, Scott, these Hawkeye fans are going to move. They're going to go to L.A. tonight, right? They're going to enjoy the nice weather at the Rose Bowl, and they're going to have a nice weekend in California. So I expect a lot of Hawkeye fans there. But UCLA, guys, they're 3-5 straight up. They're 5-3 against the spread. They're a pretty scrappy team. And I'll tell you what, look at the teams that they played. All right, seriously, they played 4 top 10 teams, Scott, UCLA. They played your Hoosiers, bro. They went to LSU. They played the Oregon Ducks. They played Penn State. Like, a lot of teams would be 3-5 if you had UCLA's schedule. I get the feeling that tonight UCLA gives something to their home fans and pull off an upset, Scott. I'm taking the UCLA Bruins plus the 7. You know, I'm not getting enough on the money line at plus 210 only, but I like the over 45 in this game too. Love the Georgia Bulldogs tomorrow to beat Ole Miss on the road.
What about Bama LSU?
Bama LSU, I'm going to be betting the over of that game. And you know what? I think LSU are probably going to pull it out. Bama are they're shaky. I'll just call it up for what it is. I'm not a big Brian Kelly guy. He doesn't win big games either, but Alabama's defense is shaky enough here for LSU to get it done.
Yeah, they don't lose at night under the lights at Death Valley. At least they haven't yet. All right, great stuff. Enjoy your soccer game and all the college and pro football this weekend. Have a great show tonight and have a great show on Sunday during that Lions-Texans game. Gabe, have a great weekend.
Hey, good stuff, Scott. Always.
What can you say about Hunter? Besides the fact that he's got to be healthy. Remember, he had the shoulder injury that kind of limited him at, once he got into the end of the season. 17.9, 10.9 last year, and he should be, as usual, a double-double machine. He's got to be able to continue to show the ability to try and shoot the ball from 3.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
For the first time together, both Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the 2 big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
We know the Jets have weaknesses. I mean, they didn't get to their record where they are now by being good, right? They got there because they stunk it up.
Ferrall Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.